Okay, we have one of the most complicated cases for Computex. This is the HS 360. This is from HAVN. So what HAVN's done is actually amusing, I guess. It should work pretty well, but basically there's another glass sheet up here now. This sits on top of the GPU. You can see that rubber sort of bumper at the end. That's allowing it to almost directly contact the GPU. And then if you look at the bottom front of the video card, it's directly contacting that glass sheet. So what's happening is if we spin to this CFD simulation, so this is computational fluid dynamics simulation, it all makes sense. This is really fun. Like this is just, it's kind of fun science where basically what you have is without the glass flow separator here, so that's that new piece. This is the one that previously existed on the BF3 or the HS420, the original HS420. And that's present here as well, but you can see they've added the glass separator, and then this is the same thing, no glass separator, still has that HS420 style deflection, and then this is with the glass separator. So basically what you're seeing is, at least in simulation, this is gonna depend kind of build to build, and we'll test it, but in simulation, for this, the hot air, if you're at 100% GPU fan speed, which is very uncommon, but good for kind of a demo, it's shooting all the air up and out or out the bottom because the fins are oriented vertically. And then that is getting pulled back into the fans at that 100% speed without a flow separator. This makes sense. This is not like new. This isn't revolutionary science. This is just how it normally works. With a 55% speed, it's kind of a different problem where for this, still hot air exhausting top and bottom, but the fans on the GPU are a lower speed, so they're less likely to pull that air in and recirculate it. And instead, it's going up and out. So this is just a difference of positive versus negative pressure setup for the case, or at least for this region of the case. And the end result is the cool air coming in from the bottom for this one is sometimes circumventing the GPU, it's not getting pulled in. We talk about this a lot in our testing, so you can see this stuff in data, like in thermal data with results. We show that, but the simulation helps make clear kind of what's happening. And what'll be interesting for us to test is with this flow separator in the two different conditions, when you have the problem of the hot air getting recirculated, this will block that, obviously, because looking back at the card, these fins, they're set back towards the CPU cooler, they're oriented vertically, most fins are on GPUs these days, and it's not gonna be able to get back down because there's a piece of glass blocking it, other than maybe a little bit at the back or something. And then under the lower flow situation where it's like 55% speed, which is pretty typical for most GPUs, I think we set ours to that for our case testing. In that condition, it's the difference of where the cool air here is actually just getting blocked, so it's not going up and out, and it's more forced into the card. Pretty cool stuff. I thought it was neat to see the simulation of it. We'll do the testing, of course, but that is the big thing that HAVN's tried to do, moving from the HS420, which is a much larger version of this case, to the HS 360. It was basically like, instead of getting rid of the concept in its entirety, let's double down and put another piece of glass in the case. So now we can have the full curved glass front, the glass deflector, and the glass separator. They are really determined to make this idea work. So I'm looking forward to testing it, but that's the big change. There's a bunch of others too. We'll go through them all. Before that, this video is brought to you by Arctic and their MX7 thermal paste. Arctic's new MX7 is a higher viscosity paste, with Arctic claiming that the increase in viscosity from filler content and the texture benefit improve its performance while reducing the risk of the pump-out effect over time. MX7 is intended for longer endurance applications and to be left in use for extended service life. Arctic also now has a counterfeit paste checking website because, believe it or not, knockoff paste from non-first-party sources is actually relatively common for the big brands to experience, so they have a site to check the validity of it. Get a tube of Arctic's MX7 thermal paste at the link in the description below. All right, so the HS 360 is a relatively difficult case for me to memorize and go over at a show because there's a lot going on with it, which is a good thing. But the HAVN series cases we've overall been positive on, the BF 360 and the HS 420 both overall tested pretty well. We did obviously have various criticisms of them, like every case. One of them was on the HS 420, it was, I think the technical term is gigantic pain in the ass to deal with the fan in the back of the case. And they have fixed that. So this is just a fan mount or bracket that goes in the back here. And rather than having to be careful about what order you install the rear fans in, Now you just access it from the backside. So that's a lot better. They're still doing the thing that they did with the previous cases, which is putting rubber at basically every single contact point of the case where metal might touch metal. There's rubber all over the place. So that's something we've been positive on. We've liked with the HAVN cases. It's a really small touch. I don't know, maybe like sometimes it might help with vibrational noise. It's more of just kind of a nice attention to detail thing though. And then some other improvements and changes. So what's it over here on the, so we did talk, this is on the previous case that we reviewed, but I did just want to give an update for everyone. Previously, we did talk about the recommended cable paths, and they have fixed that. So HAVN has just been working really hard at improving everything that we've criticized from spelling to the mechanical design. Some other interesting stuff with this. So for the new case, this is their attempt at trying to solve the fact that anyone who supports both a back connect board and a standard board ends up creating a cheese grater motherboard tray. And basically, you can see the kind of the holes for both here. So this is what everyone's shipping when they try to support both. Looks kind of ugly, and they're just doing a separable plate. Now, this is currently done with a bunch of screws. I would love to see this implemented in a way where there's a simple mechanism, either it's plastic clips or metal socket and ball or whatever, to get it to be a little quicker to pull out. Now, you should probably only be doing this once as an end user, but it would be nicer. They're going to ship this in a standard configuration by default, and then if you want back connect, you would basically pull it out, flip it like we're doing here, and then that would give you the whole pattern without having holes through the entire motherboard tray. And then there are the grommets that we've also come to expect from HAVN. So they've got kind of the stringy kind where you can run the cables through them and separate them. Those can go in if it's standard layout. If it's back connect, you probably don't want that for obvious reasons, but those come out with back connect. And then they also have these cable combs that go in the case too. So a lot of really small, like attention to detail touches. Pricing on these is supposed to be $150 for base and then $230 for the vertical GPU model. And then this is a different case. This is HS420, but this is also going to be in the upper 200s for the technically not Mercedes, I guess, AMG Petronas Formula One team. I've been told in no uncertain terms that I am not to say that this is a Mercedes collaboration. This is not a Mercedes case. This case with that logo is not a Mercedes case. It is an AMG Petronas Formula One team case. I hope we are all clear that this is not a Mercedes case, especially the lawyers at Mercedes. Okay, all right. So another thing that HAVN's working on is on the mechanical design, where this corner, they wanted to strengthen that. And if you look internally at the older HS420 here, the main thing to notice is that this is just kind of a flat bar for this top corner. There's been some changes to the way the panel secures too. On the new HS360, this is a far more complicated set of steel here. So you can see it kind of bends and this like punched out section. All of this is intentional, where they say it's basically meant to improve the structural strength. So HAVN ran these simulations as well, where this is a force application scenario. So this is 5 kilograms of force pushing down on that front edge without a glass panel underneath it, so without any support under that front corner. And then what you're looking at is deformation. So this is in millimeters deformation. This is pretty cool from a software standpoint. So they're seeing like almost 0.5 millimeters of deformation on the old design with the HS420, and then the HS360, which is the new design that's got that reinforced piece underneath the fan tray panel. They're seeing a 0.3 millimeter deformation max. So pretty cool stuff. It's like, this is what we liked with the BF360 announcement last year at Computex, was having some actual data available. We can go through some of the other stuff. So on this one, where they were doing the simulation of flow, the big thing to notice on the right side for the GPU fans at 55%, the GPU temperature is 60.2 degrees without the flow separator, 52.7 with it. So that's a pretty big difference. Like 7 degrees is a gigantic difference for a GPU. At the 100% fan speed, they're not really seeing any difference, which I would expect, just because when you're blasting the fans that much, you're kind of overpowering a lot of the more nuanced differences anyway. And then on this one, so this is a liquid cooler in the HS 360 with a vGPU, and they're seeing a couple degrees of performance, or almost 2 degrees of performance improvement, noise normalized on the left image with the with and without the flow separator. And then for the HS 420, they also did testing with the flow separator, even though the focus today is on the 360, but see it added here. That improvement's pretty big. So then HAVN says they are planning to do a flow separator as a separate component for the HS 420s in the future. So this is HAVN's competitive analysis chart. These are not necessarily the cases I would choose to compare against. The Corsair 3500X sucks. The Lianli 011 is old, and the NZXT H9 is from NZXT. So we would compare against probably different cases, but at least versus this eclectic mix, they're showing well. We'll test that in our own benchmarking, of course, more noise normalized stuff. But anyway, that's kind of some of the basics on the data. The plan for HAVN is they want to launch around September for the HS 360, and pricing, as I said, is 150 base, no fans, or 230 for the vGPU option, which we tested both the vGPU and the base models for the HS 420. If you're curious how that kind of all looks and works. But the general design, I guess, look is very similar to the past cases where they're still doing these really large slats. And on the past HAVN cases we've looked at, the spacing for the supports has typically been pretty good in terms of, especially on the side panel, in terms of minimizing how much overlap you have for the support on top of the fan blades. So that's been one of HAVN's strong points, is trying to align, like on the side panel, the supports with the fan hub, where the hub is a dead zone for fans, so you're not going to get really any air going through there. And that's all been kept with the newer case. So mostly just updates and refinement for a smaller HS series case that they are taking some learnings from and improving on. I think we've kind of covered most of it. The rest of this stuff is, it's like the same as the past with the drive cages that can mount on the side versus a cooler or fan. So I think that pretty much covers this stuff. And otherwise, we're looking forward to getting the 360 in for testing. There's gonna be a lot of A/B testing to do with the separator and the glass. I think that pretty much covers it though. So far, we haven't seen a ton of cases yet, but out of the ones I've seen, this is the most interesting one to me. So we'll see how the rest of the show goes, and check back for more as always. Subscribe for the rest of the news. We'll be here all week, and we'll see you all next time.